Again, good morning or afternoon or evening to everyone, depending on where you may be. Thank you for holding and welcome to today's Cloud Services Community Webinar. Our topic for today is Selling the Cloud, How to Build, Manage, and Reward a Top Sales Team. All phone lines are currently in a listen-only mode, and there will be a question and answer session with more instructions being given at that time. You may ask a question at any time using the chat window located in the control panel. Chat questions will be answered at the end of the presentation with the rest of the Q&A. Today's session is being recorded, and you'll be provided a copy of today's materials following the call. Now let me introduce our expert speaker for today's webinar. Mark Emanuelson is a Managing Director at Carenson Consulting, a 250-person European software consulting firm. Mark has worked with dozens of firms to help them activate a new CRM strategy, including tools like social media, mobile apps, sales, marketing, and customer service technologies using leading platforms like Salesforce.com. Previous to his role at Carenson Consulting, Mark worked for over 20 years leading global channel teams at companies. He built a 100-person channel team across 20 countries for Cisco, tripling revenue in emerging markets. Mark also led the channel for electronics giant Panasonic across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Mark is originally from the Silicon Valley in California and has been based in London for over 10 years. Mark, go ahead and take it away.
Well, hello, and it's my pleasure to be on the broadcast today, so thank you for the opportunity. Talking to you from cloudy London. As the introduction mentioned, I'm originally from California, but I've been based over here working in Europe for quite some time. We're going to be talking today about how to manage sales and how selling in the cloud is different than traditional sales, and really how you can recruit and build, manage, and reward a top sales team to get you results in what's a tremendous opportunity around cloud computing around the world. So thank you for taking the time to join me on this call, and hopefully this will provide some insights as you grow your sales team as well. Just a quick note on Carenson Consulting. We're a Salesforce Platinum partner based here in Europe. We're actually headquartered in Paris. I head up the UK team over here as Managing Director. And we are part owned by Salesforce. We're working across multiple countries here across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. We've done over 500 projects, have almost 300 people now. We've done a lot of recruiting, and we're growing really fast. We work with best-of-breed cloud applications like Salesforce as a platform, but then also the extension apps and others. And we've really tuned our business model around growing and succeeding in the cloud. We're what you would call a born-in-the-cloud integrator, or SI. Now, the agenda for today is how do we sell? What's the sales proposition, and how is it different from what we had before? How do we build a top sales team, given my experience in consulting, but also managing sales teams at places like Cisco, Panasonic, and others that were mentioned? How do we manage a top team, and then how do we reward them to keep them motivated, keep them on the team and performing? And I know that you as the cloud services community come from a diverse group of different companies, small to large, and you're looking to accelerate the growth opportunities you have. So hopefully I'll be able to give you something for everyone on this call. How do we sell? Well, we're selling the cloud, obviously, and what our position, our sales proposition, is really helping the customers to kind of free themselves from a very anchored and siloed service channels today. You know, every project that we do, we go in and the customer has legacy systems, they've got multiple databases, they have disconnected processes, and they're really trying to get out of that and to free themselves from those anchors that are holding them back from growth. And what we do then is show them the vision of what the cloud can be, and the cloud can be connecting their employees and their customers and their partners and all the products and Internet of Things and all the mobile devices and all the cool innovations that are coming out around cloud computing, and helping them see the vision and then helping them create the value around how to do that step by step, migrating all those systems into the cloud. So it's really freeing them from those anchors and helping them to grow, to scale, to be a lot more agile. What's really changed in how we sell is in IT. Years ago we're selling on-premise systems, and this is the value profile around a typical on-premise value to the customer, say, over time. So we would go in, we'd have a big project, big capital expenditure for the customer. Then that might take a year, and then the customer would experience value around the platform for maybe 2 or 3 years. And then the software vendors would come along and say, hey, we've got a big upgrade, another expensive project, like a big ERP project or CRM. Then the system is going to be down, we're diverting the team's attention, and then we're back to positive value later. So going back in this sort of seesaw effect, which was very profitable for systems integrators like the team that I'm managing at Carenson Consulting, is because we would go in, we'd have big projects up front so we could get kind of a lock-in with the customer, get a big deal up front, and we knew that the upgrades were going to come in a few years' time. So it's very profitable for us, but customers weren't so happy with this because now they're driving the cloud transformation. And customers are saying, hey, we're tired of this seesawing effect. It's expensive, it's downtime, it's unproductive, and the upgrades really are holding us hostage. And so with cloud computing, it's simpler, right? We all know it's much simpler, it's web-enabled, it's in the cloud, so we're removing all that complexity that we would bed into those on-premise projects. So the upfront investment that the customer makes is a lot smaller now, and which is less profit for integrators like us. So then we have to also think about the value that we create over time, and it's a continuous value curve now, because with the leading cloud computing vendors, they're continuous upgrades, they're highly available, and they deliver great ROI over a longer period of time. And so this requires, in terms of sales, it requires a different kind of transactional sale at the beginning because the projects are smaller than they were at the beginning. And we also have to think about how do we create value and loyalty and repeat business and adoption over a longer period of time, because the customers can switch a lot more easily now than they did in the past. And the value curve is really built on loyalty, around adoption, and around continuous enhancements. And so that's really changed kind of how we sell and what we talk about with the customers and the kind of people we need on the sales team to articulate that value proposition. And that's what we'll go through this presentation. Also, how we sell is changed as well from the CIO over to the business. In fact, we used to be, in the on-premise world, it used to be very directed towards the CIO and the technology team, and it still is, because they're concerned about security in the cloud, they're concerned about support, they're concerned about experience, because a lot of the applications are new. But more and more, the business side is becoming a lot more of a decider in the deals. A lot of times, the business might go off on their own and acquire cloud applications to support their processes and their business. And so they're talking about something different than the CIO was talking about in the old days, but now the CIO has to talk a lot more about the business as well. So the proposition about what we're talking about with the customer has to be aligned to business objectives. And that's how we grow their revenues based on the application, how we reduce their costs, make their team more productive, how we can mobilize their team with apps, how we can help them go digital in their transformation. And so the discussion, the sale itself, has become a lot more business focused. And that's also changed how and the kind of people that we have on the sales team and what they can talk about with the customer, and also how they position what we have to sell. We work with Salesforce, so they're the cloud computing leader in CRM, and we also, how we sell as an integrator is we very much position our firm and capabilities around the reputation of the platform we're representing. And we also have extension apps that are around the Salesforce ecosystem. So as a pure play kind of cloud, born in the cloud integrator, this is our position. Just as a point of illustration, your position might be different as far as what you're selling in your application and how you're positioning that. But just to give you the idea about where I'm coming from is we very much position our identity, our value add, our proof points around Salesforce, because that's what we're representing. Now let's switch a little bit around. So we've looked at how we're selling and how the positioning has changed, how we need to show more value and loyalty to build loyalty with the customer over a longer period of time, and how we're really freeing the customer up from the anchors of the on-premise system into the cloud. Now, how do we build a top team? What are the things that we need to look for now in the type of people we hire as salespeople to articulate that vision? The first thing I want to highlight is it's not the same as a traditional business. If you're approaching it and hiring very expensive salespeople who are going to come in and land the big deals, it's different now. There are big deals in the cloud, and they're getting bigger and bigger. But the value curve, as you saw, is different. So the sales are much more discrete and agile. In terms of the first sale that you make in the customer is smaller, it's shorter, the projects are faster. And so that has a different cash flow profile on your business. So in terms of looking at when to take on salespeople and when to make them active and what to pay them and how to reward them and so forth, it's a different profile, because before, when we had the big projects landing, we could hire some top guns to go land us the big deals and pay them a lot of commission when they did so. Now, because the customers are on a subscription over time, it has a different character, and we have to think very carefully about when's the right time to take on salespeople and how we're compensating them. The second part I want to highlight is about linking the technology story and the business story. The business case sells now. It's not about technology speeds and feeds and all the latest innovations. It's also about linking business objectives into a technology solution based in the cloud that can deliver value to the customer. And so the types of salespeople we need are really kind of business advisors. They need to understand and have a querying and a questioning way of working with the customer to uncover the business objectives that they want to realize out of their project, and kind of walk the talk with the business and be able to walk the talk with the CFO and show the business case, and then make very targeted offers and insights based on that, rather than just sort of pitching technology. And that's the qualities of the salespeople that we look for. I interviewed a guy just the other day who was actually a former accountant. He's a certified accountant that has been in the technology industry for a long time, but he comes in with a very interesting profile because of his background in accountancy and working with CFOs. And so it's that kind of mix that can be really important today in finding the right salespeople. And finally, marketing has become a lot more important than in the past. Because in the cloud, the transaction sizes are smaller, as I was saying, and then the loyalty and value curve is created over time, then we have to be driving a continuous innovative marketing program to drive leads and leads into sales and really closing the loop with sales. And so the type of people we need are people that can work very collaboratively with the marketing team, so that sales and marketing work together and do sort of marketing campaigns and sales plays and are closing on the leads and driving that in the activities. One of the things that you can do when you reward your team is not only reward them based on revenue that they're bringing in, but also give them some bonuses and rewards on activities, like how many people they drive to the webinar that's coming up, or how many people from their customer set have attended customer events that you're running. And also reward those activities, because marketing is becoming really important now to closing the loop of sales. Now, when you're thinking of the qualities that you want to build into a top team, it's good to think about what kind of qualities you want, and not just hire the qualities of old. Some of the qualities to avoid are people like these, and this is a stereotype of what salespeople used to be from the movies or television. You have the high pressure call center environment as epitomized in the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, Always Be Closing, and you've got Jerry Maguire screaming, show me the money, or you have the greed of the Wolf of Wall Street, or on television you have the madmen who just seem to spend most of their time drinking and manipulating customers into buying things. This is the stereotype of salespeople of old. This isn't the stereotype, I mean, this isn't the kind of qualities you want to look for. You know, the sort of backslapping, you know, relationship drinking salesperson of old is not the kind of people that are going to get you the deals in the cloud. We do customer appreciation, and we do lots of things like that in traditional sales, but the salespeople today are becoming a lot more collaborative and need to show qualities that are helping the customer to realize, you know, the value that they're going to get out of the platform. So building a top team becomes an exercise in looking for people who exhibit those qualities that you want to build into the character of your organization that can really get on the customer side. And so these are people who never stop learning. So they're, because the cloud is an innovation platform, there's a lot of new innovations. I mean, the latest things now coming out are Internet of Things, and people who can walk the talk around sensing devices and getting those into the cloud, or doing things around mobile, or doing things on social media. And so it's learning those new techniques, those platforms, and what they mean to the business. So salespeople really need to stay on top of their learning about innovations, learning about the competition, learning about the customers, and doing the research and spending the time before they do customer meetings so they can be a lot more collaborative. They also need to exhibit a sense of personal integrity, you know, following up on commitments, because customers in the cloud, you know, can switch, and they want to find providers or people that are delivering value, and they can switch over to competitors very easily now. So it's delivering that personal integrity and supporting the customer and living up to the promises rather than making false claims is also very important in quality and selling the cloud. The salespeople in the cloud also need to be very self-disciplined and very focused. They need to have a method. You know, they're working with marketing, they're working alongside, they're getting sales leads, they're running campaigns, they're delivering and following up on those leads and closing the sale and working with the rest of the team to deliver, provision the application. And so they need to be self-disciplined and focused in terms of making the calls every day and following up and using CRM tools to make sure that they're managing that very effectively, and just be very self-disciplined, because the deals are smaller, so it's more transactional, it's more you know, working across a lot of different contacts. They also, as I mentioned, need to understand the business case, and being able to link the business case to the technology solution is key. It's really the success formula, because the cloud's new, and a lot of CIOs and a lot of organizations are very interested in that, but they also need to justify why to choose the cloud. And so the salespeople become a trusted advisor to help them to articulate the business case, to champion that business case inside their organization. And so good salespeople really get on the side of the customer and then try to provide information to the customer about proving that business case. I mean, the salespeople in my team, we give the customer business case material. We give them templates. We give them research data that we have around the business case that other clients have received and the return on investment, and so that they can go to their boards and then sell the project internally and become our evangelist and our champion inside. And so that requires a sense of trust, of being a trusted advisor, of being someone who understands the business as well as what technology can do. And then finally provides an effective sales process, so is working with the team and collaborating, maybe working on large deals together, so that the rest of the team is collaborating and working collaboratively with marketing and so forth. You know, when I'm in a good sales meeting with one of my reps, or the reps that I've managed, you know, I'm looking for people that I'm coming out of the meeting thinking that the customer was talking 70 or 60% of the time, most of the time. So I'm looking for salespeople who can ask the right questions, who can understand the business, who can query and get the customer talking about their needs, and then give a very directed and relevant response as far as the solution that we're recommending. So it's really different from sort of the pitchman of old. It's much more collaborative. It's much more of uh, an advisor type sale. And if you're looking for resources, I mean, there's lots of good books out that you can find today around the new methods of selling. There's Insight Selling is a good book. The Challenger Sale, it has a whole kind of program around it, which is about sort of challenging the customer with questions and understanding more about the insights in their business so that you can make recommendations. These are all really good sources of information for looking at how salespeople can be effective. And they have research backing these up, especially the Challenger sale methods have some really interesting research about top performers and how they've really achieved great results using these methods and sort of the new way of sales. We're a Salesforce partner, as I mentioned, and we work very closely with Salesforce, but the Salesforce also has some really good resources on their blog. So if you're looking for sales techniques and tactics and those types of things, or even in marketing or customer service, in fact, check out the Salesforce blog. You can download some really neat ebooks about setting up effective sales teams and techniques, and then they have some of the authors that you see above will post blog posts on their Salesforce site. So it's actually a really good resource for that, for sales techniques, to finding the qualities of the salespeople that you need to have. Now, let's switch to sort of managing now a top team. How do you manage and how do you make sure that the team is working effectively and that you're delivering results and that everyone's focused on the right goals in the cloud? First is, use cloud tools. I mean, because you have the opportunity in the cloud, you can use tools, CRM tools and mobile tools and collaboration tools to really connect the field and to collaborate as a team. This is kind of transformational as far as how salespeople work today, because you're really not looking for that kind of lone wolf that's going to go out and land the big deal and bring it home and get lots of commission and value out of, be a big hero. I mean, those deals are still out there, or with sales, and of course, salespeople are motivated by that. But today it's about collaboration, and it's about being a trusted advisor. It's about exposing the expert resources within your organization to help the salespeople close opportunities and to help manage the customer relationship. And using collaboration tools that are available through leading CRM tools, you can also use those for teaming internally. And sometimes you might be doing a sale with other partners, and the collaboration tools can provide the glue. And they can be out on mobile devices, they can be out on via the desktops and so forth. But it also creates great intelligence, because then that all is stored now in the system, and you can go back and see, okay, this is like a deal we had last year, or this is, like same customers coming back, so we've got all the reference material and the discussions that are all cataloged and stored in our knowledge base. And so this is a great resource to really collaborate and win as a team. So that's how we manage sales today. The second part is about establishing a customer success team. Remember with the graph that I showed earlier, is the deal size at the beginning is smaller, and the value to the customer increases over time as they adopt it, as they build enhancements into the cloud platform they're using or the cloud application, how it integrates with other things across their organization. And so leading organizations, or even small organizations as well, are setting up a desk or a team of people focused entirely on customer success. And that is the customer success team, or some organizations call it customers for life, or other terms like that. And this team, or these individuals, help drive the satisfaction over time with the customer. So that way, if establishing that, you can actually have salespeople going out and hunting and looking for more deals. Meanwhile, there's a relationship manager, or customer service manager, who's really going to help them get more out of the system over time and drive that satisfaction and loyalty that is going to help you realize the opportunity over time. And it's important because the value, the return to you off the sales on a subscription sale in the cloud is going to come 3 or 5 years later. And so it's different than it was in the old days, where you make a lot of profit on the first project, and expensive licenses. Now there's a subscription over time. So it's important to try to realize that value and drive loyalty and adoption with the customer. And then the third point I'm going to highlight here and delve into a little bit is about how do we build KPIs and help all the team focus on certain aspects of the goals and where we are, and how do we benchmark success, how do we share that across the team and monitor usage of CRM. So let's go into these in a little more detail. The customer success team, I really want to stress this because I think it's kind of a new way of selling in terms of creating a team that's focused entirely on adoption with the customer. And these people report to or support sales, so they work right alongside sales. I mean, you might have one salesperson and you have one customer success person, or you might have teams doing that. But they report into sales. It's not technical support. This is customer support and customer success. And so what they're doing is they're looking into the stats. They're looking into the customer's adoption of the application. They're seeing, are they adopting it? Are they people using the system? Is there training and support we can provide to help customers get more out of that? Is there other things that can be done? And these individuals, they might carry a small revenue goal, but they're not sales. They're kind of sales support, and they're proactively working to drive higher levels of customer satisfaction and loyalty over time. And if you set this up, your salespeople as a team with the customer success team are going to be highly effective. So that way the salespeople are focused on bringing in new deals and growing the business, and then the customer success team is focused on increasing loyalty and satisfaction over time. And together they can be a real powerful force in the cloud. The other part I want to drill down on a little bit here is about sales and dashboards and reports. It's really important to have kind of a method or a framework around how you're managing your team, the sales team, how you're forecasting deals, how you're following those deals, how you're engaging the support with the other organization, how you're ensuring the salespeople are entirely focused on the goals and objectives and the next steps that they need to enable. So a sample sales dashboard might have important things like the number of qualified leads coming in, what's the win rate on those leads, what's the average deal size, the sales cycle time, new sales versus renewals, because remember we want to follow renewals and loyalty as a measure of success in the cloud. We might use the dashboard to rank team performance, kind of showing the winners and losers, so that way the bottom ones on the bottom are encouraged to get on higher on the list, and the ones on the top are leaving the benchmark. We might also put in the dashboard different process steps, like are we following the right processes, or are we making sure that people are following through. We could use traffic light systems and other things to highlight that. And then using CRM tools, if you build the dashboard in tools like we see here, you can drill down, so that way you can look down into the deals and inspect that. And having a dashboard that you standardize across your business, across the team, all the way from the senior people all the way down to the front line, the inside salespeople or the field salespeople, will make sure everybody's aligned and that they can see KPIs, hopefully in real time, from your system. And this really influences performance. And bring it up in the meetings, make sure people can access it across devices, and really drive home the communication on those metrics and the forecasts and the follow-up, and you'll get great results on managing the team. So this is your framework. This is the way that you're going to manage that team and make sure that they're performing to a top level. Some other tactics that you can use in managing a team is to look at, once you've sort of landed a customer, is then look into your customer base and see how you can increase that adoption. Remember, we talked about the customer success team, and that was an important factor. The other part is analyzing the upsell and the cross-sell opportunities. Like if you have a portfolio of products, you might find that there's a big difference between customers who might buy one product versus customers that will buy a whole series or collection of products. products in a solution or as a whole portfolio. And at the companies that I've worked at, what I found is that the difference between customers buying, say, one product and customers buying, say, 3 or 5 is a factor of 15x. And so it's sort of the idea that 1 + 1 = 3. And that's because as customers are really standardizing around your product portfolio, they're going to drive a lot more adoption and a lot more loyalty around what you have. And they might buy more services, they might buy more support, they might buy higher versions of the product. And you'll find if you do this kind of analysis across your customer base, you'll find that there is a really great opportunity to upsell, cross-sell, and then you can form that into your marketing campaigns and also direct your salespeople to upselling and cross-selling. Because remember, the cloud is all about increasing loyalty. Sales and value around the customer is about getting that first deal, but then it's also about increasing loyalty and adoption over time. And this type of exercise helps you to do that. And you can even go further by looking at across your customers and then trying to quantify what is the upsell, cross-sell opportunity. So, you might map out customers, your larger customers, or look at kind of a traffic light system and see, how many customers have you sold the full portfolio set to, and how many have bought a portion, and how many have only bought one product, and then just do a very directed sales play and marketing campaigns directed on moving those. And if you quantify that, like what is the license sale that you could do in upselling and cross-selling and filling in the blanks, then you will know how much you want to spend on that. You might spend that on salespeople or marketing campaigns. And so this is a key exercise because making those value recommendations to customers around how they can increase the loyalty and the satisfaction and adoption of your platform or your application will make them loyal over time. And so really look at that very closely. Let's cover a little bit about rewarding the top team. So rewarding in the cloud is very different. Now, one of the things you can do is you can pay on contract. So you can just pay the salespeople on the full value of the contract. Maybe they're going to sell like a 3-year contract, and you can say, okay, your commission is some percentage of that over the 3-year lifespan or the 1 year or whatever. And that's great for hunters. That's great for providing that incentive for hunters to go out and get the deals in. The risk there, though, is the cash flow, right? Because we're on a subscription base with the customer now in the cloud, and they're going to pay over a period of time. They might pay each year, every month, whatever you're selling. And now you're going to try to reward your salespeople all up front. And this is something you need to manage really closely because you can quickly get caught out on a cash flow term, and you need to just make sure you can afford that model. It's great for hunters, it's great for getting new business, but it's also risky, and you just need to think about how that plays into your revenues. The other model you might think about is some kind of blend, like maybe you pay for the initial customer and then pay more as they renew over time. And so some commission up front and the rest based on revenue. And this is good for farmers, I would say, or people developing that loyalty with the customer. And it might be a lower sales compensation at the front end for the salespeople, but it will help encourage loyalty and adoption over time. And then the third model that some people are using are to pay later, basically pay a fixed percentage on when the customer revenues are coming in. And this is going to be very difficult because the customer revenue profile is spread out over such a long period in the cloud that it's going to be less of an incentive for your salespeople. However, it's optimized against your cash flow, so it exactly matches the subscriptions in the cash flow. What I've seen across cloud application vendors is most of them going to more towards the tiger and a little bit of the middle model as well to increase loyalty and renewals, and then plowing a lot of money into sales and marketing at the front end because in one aspect, we're a bit of a land grab right now. The cloud is expanding, the vendors are all growing massively, and it's a great opportunity. So, it's kind of a land grab in one sense. So you got to think about how you compensate the salespeople to bring those deals in and to get those customers. Because then once you've done that and you've also invested in the customer success team and the other things, you're essentially going to have a customer for life. So think about what that means to you in the front end, and then think about if you've aligned everything else to making sure those customers are loyal throughout, then you can have a very effective compensation and reward for your sales team. So coming to the end of the prepared presentation, then I'm free to take a few questions if you have them. We've talked about how we sell and how the positioning of the cloud and how we sell the cloud is different than what we sold before in IT. It's a great opportunity because we've got an innovation message, we've got a great opportunity to go out and sell interesting new things to customers that free them up from the anchored systems of on-premise systems and software and the very expensive profile of what we used to sell in IT. And so with that, it's a very, very compelling and interesting and exciting opportunity to sell the cloud. We talked about how to build a top team and the kind of qualities you want to look for. The salespeople we're looking for are trusted advisors. They're people that understand the business. They're not that stereotypical salesperson of old like what we saw in the pictures, but they're really people that can collaborate with the customer, get on their side, be customer focused, can sell as a team, and are continuing to stay up to speed on their learning, and they're well prepared when they go and meet with customers and they've looked at their background and the type of business that they're in. So, that's a different type of quality of salesperson, and it can be very effective today. We looked at some of the tools to manage the team, like using dashboards and also setting up the customer success team to work alongside sales so that we increase the loyalty and adoption and customer satisfaction over time. And then we looked at different reward models for rewarding the team and the commissions and the percent, what we want to pay the salespeople from at the beginning, or do we want to pay them over time. And so those are just some tips and strategies that I think you might look into. It's good to look into the resources that I talked about, blogs, the books that I highlighted, because sales is really changing. And I find it very very interesting. It's much more an intelligent sale now than it was before. It's much more an engaged and customer-focused sale, and I think that's really good for the business. So all that is a really good trend, and I think it's really enjoyable to work as a sales leader and to manage a sales team. So hopefully I've passed along some ideas that you can take back in terms of building out your teams, and I'm now open for questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. That was fantastic. We will indeed now open it up for questions. If you would like to ask a question, we have a couple of different ways you can do that. One way is to raise your hand using the raise hand button located in the GoToWebinar control panel. If at any time your question has already been answered, please lower your hand to remove yourself from the question queue. And secondly, if you prefer, you can ask a question via the chat box. And that's a chat window located in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. So we'll get into some of the questions coming in. Mark, you spoke about rewarding the salespeople. What is the best percentage of commissions or variable compensation versus base salary?
A lot of people ask that, right? In terms of what's the the percentage to put to commission, and what's the base salary, what's the overall compensation, because we want to, basically the compensation picture, we want to reward the salespeople. And as I mentioned, we can also blend in some other bonuses, not just revenues, but we can also incentivize around activities like driving marketing activities and so forth. But to answer the question, you have to also look a bit in terms of the transaction size that you're offering. What's the deal size that your customers have? Good salespeople, I think, will more than happy to take a 50-50 compensation, so 50% base and then a 50% variable. especially on larger opportunities, like if you have larger deal size. If you're more transactional, you might have a more of a 70-30, towards base and variable because of just the deal sizes itself. But, you just need to look at what do you want hunters, do you want farmers, and gear the compensation that way. But I think a good general guideline that I've seen is 50-50, really.
Excellent. Is it better to hire inside salespeople who work on the telephone or field sales or both?
Well, they both have a role. The inside sales or telesales, as we call it, are really important. They can generate a lot of revenue and opportunities. And then field salespeople can go meet the customer and sit down with them and help them, do demonstrations or help them understand what they could do and really listen and learn more about their business. You need to look at what you're selling and the value to the customer of that sale. So, obviously, if you've got a small application and it's a very small transaction size and you're working on a volume business, you're going to gear it towards telesales. If it's very large deals and you need people that can go out and work for a couple of months on getting a deal ready, then you're going to have field salespeople. And working together, inside sales or telesales and field sales can be a really effective formula in terms of maybe pairing up teams, like a field salesperson with a couple of telesales people, working a joint list together, and maybe even having an overlay goal for that team, so they're really working together. I can see that being very effective in the cloud. It just depends on your deal size, the decision point for the customer, if it can be sold over the phone, and kind of where you are in the evolution of your fields, of your sales model, but definitely invest in both if you can, and work on a system where they can work together and give them joint goals so that they're teaming and working together, and it can be really, really effective.
Great. How much time does it take a salesperson to ramp up and be productive, and what can we do to improve this?
Obviously, when we're ramping, we're hiring people, and in the cloud, good salespeople are in high demand. So we're ramping up, we're bringing on people, and we're getting them productive as quickly as possible. I think we also need to, though, have realistic goals, and it depends on the time it takes for them to be productive depends on the transaction size that you're offering and the complexity of the sale. But generally, I think you need to give salespeople in this business, at least a couple months or a couple of quarters to really be at full productivity. And it's investing some time, making sure that they have the knowledge and the skills to represent your product, and also know the resources that are available to you. They know your industry. Investing a lot in the front end and not expecting, a sale the second week that they join, then I think you're going to be very successful, because over time they're going to generate a lot of value. And it does take people time. It takes people time to get the customers to know them, and for them to know the customers. It takes time for them to know the product. So, for simple products, it's generating value, I think, in a ramp-up time of a couple of months. If it's a more complex sale, I would say a couple of quarters, and you've got a high-performing salesperson that's starting to generate revenue.
Great. If a salesperson is not performing, how long should we keep them in the organization before they are let go?
Well, this is always a question. Sometimes in sales, what's wonderful about selling and being in sales is, number one, you get to talk to customers. So you really, get to know the customers. You get to help them realize the value out of your application or your product or your implementation. The second is that it's very results focused. So you see immediately whether people are performing or they're delivering value, or the salespeople get rewarded immediately because they make the sales. And that's what's actually really satisfying about being a salesperson is, you get the sale, you close the deal, it's really obvious that you're getting results. sometimes we have people in the organization that just aren't bringing in results. And, it takes time, as I mentioned, to get them ramped up, but maybe they're not hitting their goals. And I think salespeople are more comfortable with being a little bit more ruthless in this regard, because their measure of performance and success is something that they're actually very close to and they're responsible for. Then they will know whether they're hitting their performance targets or not, and use those dashboards that we talked about to really make that obvious and expose that. And then that really helps people see where they are, what they need to do next, and if they're at risk. And I would say you need to be a little ruthless on that, because you got to think about the opportunity cost. If you've got a salesperson that's not delivering in sales for you, that seat can be occupied by someone else who would. And you want to help and encourage them. You want to go on sales calls if that's your model, or help them to reach out. But then I think you need to be rather ruthless and make sure people are tracking to their goal, and try to replace them with people that would if they're not. So it's a balancing act, but definitely don't let bad situations just kind of continue on and on and on. Salespeople are fine with knowing if they didn't hit their goal, they go find another place to do that.
Great. As an IT services company that sells services around multiple technologies, how have you seen sales teams organized selling? It appears generally challenging for a sales team member to learn and sell multiple technologies.
Yeah, that's a good question, because across in the cloud especially, there's lots and lots of different technologies. Like we're a Salesforce implementation partner, so we're representing Salesforce, of course. We're representing innovations that we've built internally, different applications or solutions or configurations that we've created, our own little IP. We're representing dozens of third-party software vendors that have made their products for the Salesforce platform. And so that's very complex, in terms of being able to put all those pieces together or offer a diversity of products and services. So here's a couple techniques for that. One is try to maybe lead with a broader message. So you can lead with a broader sort of industry focus or a particular solution focus that has all the different technologies kind of built in. So we're not trying to understand each and every discrete, but we sort of built a solution package around it. And if you're a software vendor, you might look at how you can get your application embedded into solutions with others or into the platform, so that maybe salespeople can address a broader message around what the application can do. The other part is looking at the analysis, like I said. Remember I looked at the installed base. And if you can get your customers to take more and more of that product portfolio, then they're going to be much more loyal, and they're going to generate a lot more revenue for you, because the loyalty and the customer satisfaction is much higher if they have a broader portfolio. And so doing that analysis on the installed base and filling in the gaps in a very directed way is also very important if you have a broad portfolio. And the third I would maybe offer some suggestions on sort of team selling. And this is something that I face. Is I've got salespeople in our team as an integrator. I've got Salesforce has sales executives that are selling. I've got a dozen software applications that I work with and partner with, and they have salespeople. And so, how we build kind of sales plays together, how we organize marketing activities, how we then have our salespeople selling together is really important. Over time, what happens is if you can get a trusted relationship with integrators like our own that are taking that solution story in, then that can be a simpler way to go than just having lots and lots of salespeople all pushing at the same customer together. If you can enable the partners and work behind them, if you have a trusted relationship to sell, then that can be very effective in unlocking those sales opportunities. So it is an important question. There's a lot of complexity and diversity in what we're selling. It just takes education, it takes collaboration, it takes analysis, like I talked about, and that can all come together in a broader story.
Excellent. Excuse me. Well, that looks like that's all the questions that we've had come through at this point. So, Mark, thank you very much for your time and expertise.
My pleasure. I mean, I have my contact information on the screen, or I think it'll be in the slides that are distributed afterwards. If you have any questions afterwards, you can reach me through the Cloud Services community. But it's been my pleasure to spend some time with you, and I've enjoyed a career in sales, and hopefully you got some tips and tricks that I've used in helping to build and manage your own sales teams. Thank you for your time.
Yep, and thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. Please do take a few moments to fill out your post-survey or your post-event survey. We value your input very much and use it to continually improve these types of events. But this concludes today's conference, and you may now disconnect.